The Napa Valley sunlight filtered through the vineyard rows as I walked between the vines, running my fingers along the heavy clusters of Cabernet Sauvignon grapes. 6 years of blood, sweat, and tears had transformed this once-neglected plot of land into Arroyo Ridge, one of California's most promising boutique wineries. "Elena, the lab results for the new batch just came in." Mia, my assistant winemaker, jogged toward me, tablet in hand. "The acidity is perfect. This might be our best vintage yet." I smiled, momentarily savoring the victory. "Let's not celebrate yet. We still need to secure that distribution deal with Verity Imports." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I expected it to be our accountant with updates on our loan refinancing. Instead, I saw a name that still made my heart skip a beat, even after 3 years. Robert Bennett. "Robert," I answered, keeping my voice steady. "This is unexpected. Elena, I hope I'm not interrupting." His voice was unchanged, smooth, confident, with that slight East Coast accent that had first caught my attention at a wine conference in Chicago. "Just checking on the harvest. What can I do for you?" A pause. "I'm calling because of the Sonoma Wine Growers Charity Gala next month. Apparently, your Arroyo Ridge Reserve was nominated for the Innovation Award." I nearly dropped the phone. The Sonoma Wine Growers Charity Gala was the premier event of the season, a gathering of California's wine elite. Nominations were by peer selection only. "That's surprising," I managed. "Yes, well," Robert cleared his throat. "The thing is, Bennett Family Vineyards is hosting this year. Audrey is the event chair." Audrey, his new wife, the woman he left me for 3 years ago, just as I was securing the loan for Arroyo Ridge. The woman who had been his marketing consultant while we were still married. "I see," I said, watching a hawk circle overhead. "And you're calling to tell me I shouldn't attend?" "No." He sounded genuinely surprised. "Actually, the committee specifically requested Arroyo Ridge as a featured wine sponsor. Your Cabernet received exceptional reviews in Wine Enthusiast last month." The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 years ago, Robert had laughed when I told him I wanted to launch my own label. "Winemaking isn't a hobby, Elena," he'd said. "You need generations of experience, connections, capital. Stick to marketing. That's what you're good at." "I'll think about it," I replied, fighting to keep my voice neutral. "Elena," he hesitated. "Audrey doesn't know I'm calling. She thinks it might be awkward having you there. But this nomination could be significant for your brand." Of course, it wasn't about me. It was about appearances. Bennett Family Vineyards had been established by Robert's grandfather in the 1950s. They had reputation, history, and money, 3 things Arroyo Ridge desperately needed. "I'll have my assistant confirm with the committee," I said finally. "Congratulations on hosting, Robert." After hanging up, I stood motionless among the vines, emotions warring within me. Professional opportunity versus personal pride. The exposure from the gala could help secure the distribution deal we needed to stay afloat. "Bad news?" Mia asked, approaching cautiously. "Complicated news," I replied. "We've been nominated for the Innovation Award at the Sonoma Gala." Mia's eyes widened. "That's amazing! But why do you look like someone just ran over your dog?" "Because the gala is being hosted by Bennett Family Vineyards, by Robert and Audrey." Understanding dawned on her face. "Oh, awkward. The committee wants Arroyo Ridge as a featured wine sponsor." Mia whistled low. "So basically, they want your wine, but Robert's wife doesn't want you there." "Something like that." "You have to go," Mia said firmly. "This isn't about Robert anymore. It's about what you've built here." She gestured to the vineyard spreading around us, 30 acres of carefully tended vines that represented everything I had. That evening, I sat on my cottage porch overlooking the vineyard, laptop open to the email from the gala committee. The formal invitation requested 3 cases of Arroyo Ridge Reserve for the event, along with my attendance at the pre-gala tasting panel. I thought about the bank notices, the equipment repairs we'd been postponing, and the distribution deal that kept slipping through my fingers. Then I thought about walking into that ballroom, seeing Robert with Audrey on his arm, Audrey in her designer dress, with her family connections and her trust fund that had helped expand Bennett Vineyards while I struggled to keep Arroyo Ridge afloat. I hit accept on the invitation. 3 weeks later, I found myself in the grand tasting room of Bennett Family Vineyards, surrounded by Napa and Sonoma's winemaking elite. My simple black cocktail dress, the most expensive thing in my closet, felt woefully inadequate among the sea of designer labels. Elena Sorokin, Charles Whitley, the head of the committee, approached with a glass of wine, my wine, in his hand. The woman of the hour. Everyone's talking about your Cabernet. Good things, I hope, I replied, accepting a glass from a passing server. Exceptional things. The balance of tannins with that subtle cherry finish, remarkable for such a young vineyard. I was about to respond when I spotted them, Robert and Audrey making their entrance. Robert looked the same, salt and pepper hair, tailored suit, confident smile. Audrey was resplendent in an emerald gown that probably cost more than my quarterly mortgage payment. Her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo. Charles followed my gaze. "Ah, our hosts, let me introduce you. We've met," I said quickly, but he was already guiding me toward them. "Robert, Audrey, I've found our rising star," Charles called out. Robert's smile faltered for just a moment when he saw me. Audrey's did not waver at all, though her eyes turned cold. "Elena," Robert nodded. "Glad you could make it." "Congratulations on the nomination," Audrey said, her voice honey-sweet with an undertone of vinegar. "Robert mentioned you'd started a little winery. How brave." "Thank you," I replied simply. "The committee has been very supportive." "Elena's Cabernet is the talk of the event," Charles interjected, oblivious to the tension. "Bennett family might have some serious competition this year." Audrey's smile tightened. "How exciting! Will you be attending the gala dinner next week, Elena?" "As a featured sponsor, I believe that's expected," I replied. "Of course," she said, "though I'm afraid we won't have room for you at the speaker's table. The toasts are reserved for established industry figures." Charles frowned. "Audrey, as a nominee—" "It's fine," I interrupted. "I'm happy to support from the sidelines." Audrey's smile was triumphant. "Perfect. You've always been so accommodating, Elena." She glanced at Robert. "Isn't that right, darling?" Before Robert could respond, a photographer approached. "Mrs. Bennett, could we get a few shots of you with the committee members?" "Duty calls," she said, placing her hand possessively on Robert's arm. As they walked away, she glanced back at me. "You're not invited to toast," she added with a laugh, "but do enjoy the party." The week before the gala passed in a blur of preparations. The 3 cases of Arroyo Ridge Reserve were packaged and delivered to the venue, the historic Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco, along with promotional materials Mia and I had stayed up late designing. "You should wear this," Mia said on the afternoon of the event, holding up a burgundy gown we'd found at a consignment shop in St. Helena. "It's the exact color of our reserve label." I examined my reflection in the mirror. The dress was simple but elegant, with a subtle sheen that caught the light. I'd splurged on having it tailored, and the result was worth every penny. "Not bad for someone who usually lives in jeans and work boots," I murmured. "You look like a winemaker who knows her worth," Mia replied, adjusting the delicate gold pendant around my neck. A tiny grape leaf, a gift from my grandmother when I'd first announced my dream of owning a vineyard. The ballroom of the Fairmont was transformed into a wine lover's paradise. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables adorned with burgundy and gold linens. Each place setting featured a program listing the evening's wines and their origins. I found my table near the back of the room, as far from the speaker's platform as possible. My table mates were mostly suppliers and minor sponsors. Pleasant enough, but clearly not considered VIPs. Elena Sorokin, a young man in hotel livery, approached. "The event coordinator would like to speak with you." He led me to a side room where a harried-looking woman was directing staff. "Ms. Sorokin, there you are. There's been a slight issue with the wine service." 2 cases of your Cabernet were apparently mislabeled by our staff. We need to verify which is which before dinner. I followed her to the service area, where staff were frantically preparing for the evening. Sure enough, the cases of Arroyo Ridge Reserve had been separated, with one set placed with the dinner wines and another with the reception selections. This batch is the reserve, I confirmed, examining the bottles. You can tell by the gold foil capsule. The reception wine has burgundy foil. Thank God, she sighed. The last thing we need is to serve the wrong wine during the chairman's toast. I froze. I'm sorry. The toast? I was told Arroyo Ridge wouldn't be featured during the toasts. She checked her tablet. That's not what I have here. According to the program, the chairman's welcome toast will feature Arroyo Ridge Reserve, specifically highlighting it as an Innovation Award nominee. Confusion turned to understanding. Audrey had deliberately misled me. She didn't want me participating in the toast because she didn't want me to know my wine would be the center of attention. As I returned to the ballroom, I spotted Robert in conversation with several board members. Without Audrey by his side, he seemed more like the man I'd first met, passionate about wine, animated as he discussed vintages and terroir. Our eyes met across the room. He excused himself and walked over. "Elena," he said, his voice softer than at the tasting, "you look beautiful." "Thank you," I replied, unsure what else to say. "I just spoke with the sommelier. Your reserve is extraordinary. The committee was right to nominate you." I studied his face, searching for condescension or pity, but found only genuine admiration. "That means a lot coming from you." He glanced around, then lowered his voice. "Listen, about what Audrey said at the tasting." "It's fine," I interrupted. "I just discovered my wine is being served for the chairman's toast. That's more than enough recognition." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I remembered well. "I wanted to tell you, but Audrey insisted on handling the program details. Robert, darling!" Audrey's voice cut through our conversation as she approached, resplendent in a champagne-colored gown dripping with crystals. "They're ready for the receiving line." Her eyes narrowed when she saw me. "Elena, enjoying yourself?" "Very much," I replied calmly. "I was just complimenting Robert on the event organization." "Yes, well, I've been planning this for months," she said, slipping her arm through Robert's. "The perfect showcase for Bennett family vineyards." She glanced pointedly at my dress. "Burgundy is a bold choice. Not everyone can pull it off." I smiled. "It matches my wine label. Speaking of which, I just learned Arroyo Ridge Reserve will be featured in the chairman's toast." For a moment, Audrey's composure slipped. There must be some mistake. "I specifically selected our Bennett estate for the toast." "Apparently not," I replied. "The coordinator just confirmed it." Robert cleared his throat. "Audrey, we discussed this. The committee insisted on featuring the nominees." "But Mr. and Mrs. Bennett," Charles Whitley approached. "We're ready to begin. Elena, wonderful to see you again. Your wine has been the talk of the pre-dinner reception." As guests took their seats, I returned to my table at the back. The servers began pouring wine for the toast, and there it was, the distinctive bottle with the Arroyo Ridge label being poured into crystal glasses throughout the ballroom. Charles Whitley took the stage, tapping his glass for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 37th Annual Sonoma Wine Growers Charity Gala. Before we begin dinner, I invite you all to raise your glasses in celebration of the remarkable wines being honored tonight." He lifted his glass, filled with my Cabernet. "In your glasses is one of tonight's nominees for the Innovation Award, Arroyo Ridge Reserve, a remarkable achievement from one of our industry's rising stars, Elena Sorokin." A spotlight suddenly illuminated my table. Heads turned. Whispers circulated. "Ms. Sorokin began her journey in wine marketing before taking the bold step of establishing her own vineyard just 3 years ago," Charles continued. "Against considerable odds, she has created a wine that exemplifies the spirit of innovation we celebrate tonight. Elena, would you stand and be recognized?" Heart pounding, I rose to unexpected applause. Across the room, I could see Audrey's tight smile and Robert's genuinely proud expression. "And now," Charles said, "I'd like to invite Elena to say a few words about her remarkable journey." Audrey's face went pale. This clearly hadn't been in her program. As I made my way to the stage, I caught fragments of conversation. "That's Robert Bennett's ex-wife. Started from nothing. Best new Cabernet I've tasted in years." Taking the microphone, I looked out at the sea of faces, industry legends whose approval I'd sought for years, suppliers who had taken chances on my fledgling business, and yes, Robert and Audrey, watching with very different expressions. "Thank you, Charles, for that generous introduction," I began, "and thank you to the committee for this unexpected honor. 3 years ago, Arroyo Ridge was nothing but a neglected vineyard and an impossible dream." I caught Audrey's eyes as I finished my speech, her smile frozen while her knuckles whitened around her champagne flute. "A wise vintner once told me that great wine tells the truth of its origins, the soil, the sun, the hands that tended it. Tonight, I'm honored that Arroyo Ridge's truth has resonated with you all. Thank you." The applause was genuine as I descended from the stage. Charles Whitley caught my arm, beaming. "Brilliant. The committee made the right choice. Now enjoy dinner, awards after dessert." As I returned to my table, industry figures who'd previously ignored me stopped me repeatedly. The owner of Verity Imports, the distribution company I'd been courting for months, handed me his card. "Call Monday. I'd like to discuss featuring Arroyo Ridge in our premium portfolio." By the time I reached my seat, my table mates regarded me with new interest. "You didn't mention you were the Arroyo Ridge," a silver-haired woman said. "I tasted your reserve. Extraordinary structure for such a young vineyard." Throughout dinner, I felt Audrey's gaze burning into me. Robert, seated beside her, kept glancing my way with an unreadable expression. Between courses, servers circulated with Bennett Family Vineyard's signature Chardonnay. It was excellent, I had to admit that. Robert's family had perfected their craft over decades. As dessert plates were cleared, Charles returned for the awards presentation. Minor categories were announced first. Then came the moment I'd been anticipating. The Innovation Award recognizes a winemaker who has introduced new techniques that advance our industry, Charles announced. The winner is Arroyo Ridge Vineyards for their revolutionary cold fermentation technique. The room erupted in applause. I rose on unsteady legs, passing the Bennett table as I approached the stage. Audrey's face was a mask of composure, but her eyes were glacial. Charles handed me a crystal decanter and an envelope. As our Innovation Award winner, Elena Sorokin will receive a $50,000 grant, sponsored by the California Vintners Association. $50,000, exactly what I needed to upgrade our production facility. My acceptance speech was brief. As I concluded, I raised my glass of Cabernet to innovation rooted in tradition and to the California wine community that makes it possible. Later, Robert found me alone. "Congratulations," he said, offering champagne. "Nobody deserves this more." I accepted cautiously. "Thank you. Where's Audrey?" "Dealing with some event issue," he hesitated. "Elena, what you've accomplished, it's remarkable. I was wrong 3 years ago." I sipped champagne to hide my surprise. "You're just now figuring that out." He looked embarrassed. "I deserve that. But what you've created is special, and it's all yours." By midnight, I was waiting for the valet when Audrey appeared beside me. "Quite the evening for you," she said. "The toast, the award, the grant. One might think it was all planned. By whom? You made it clear I wasn't welcome. Don't play innocent. Robert's been championing your little project for months." I frowned. "Robert hasn't been helping me. Tonight was our first conversation in months." Uncertainty flickered across her face as Robert emerged from the hotel. "There you are," he said to Audrey. "The car's ready." He nodded to me. "Congratulations again, Elena." The next morning, I received an email from Charles Whitley. "Innovation Award voting results." "Elena," it read, Attached are the final tallies. I thought you might be interested to see how enthusiastically the committee supported Arroyo Ridge. Your nomination came from a surprising source, but clearly they recognized your exceptional talent before the rest of us caught up. I scrolled to the attachment, a spreadsheet showing the voting breakdown. Arroyo Ridge had received 85% of the votes. But it was the nomination source that stopped me cold. Bennett Family Vineyards. The morning of the private tasting dawned clear and warm. At precisely 3 o'clock, a sleek black Tesla pulled up the gravel drive. I expected some tech executive or venture capitalist. Instead, Robert Bennett stepped out. "Hello, Elena." "Robert," I managed. "This is unexpected, is it?" I thought Margaret would have mentioned I was coming. She said the award sponsor was visiting. The anonymous award sponsor. Understanding dawned on his face. "Ah, I see the confusion." He gestured to the tasting room. "May I come in?" Inside, Mia's eyes widened when she saw Robert. "The infamous X," she said with hostility. Robert took it in stride. "Guilty as charged, though I hope to improve that reputation today." After Mia left us alone, I asked directly, "Why are you here, Robert?" "I'm here because I owe you an explanation," he said, "and an apology. Several, actually. I nominated Arroyo Ridge for the Innovation Award," he continued, "and yes, I'm the sponsor. Anonymous by necessity, not choice." "Why would you do that?" he sighed. "Because your wine deserves recognition, because what you've accomplished is miraculous, and because I was wrong, Elena, spectacularly wrong. You didn't just dismiss my dream, Robert, you left for someone who shared your vision." "I know." He looked genuinely remorseful. "I've had 3 years to recognize what a fool I was. 3 years watching from a distance as you built something extraordinary. How have you been watching? Audrey seemed to think you've been in contact with me." He looked embarrassed. "I subscribed to every publication that mentioned Arroyo Ridge. I followed your winery's social media from an anonymous profile." "That's borderline stalking," I said. "It's admiration," he corrected, "and regret." I studied his face. "Does Audrey know you're here?" "Not exactly. Our marriage is ending, Elena. The papers were filed last month." I blinked, surprised by my complex emotional response. "Robert, if you're here thinking we could pick up where we left off—" "No," he interrupted. "That's not why I'm here. I want to offer you something else, a professional partnership. Bennett Family Vineyards has the distribution networks and resources Arroyo Ridge needs, and we need your innovation and vision." It was exactly the opportunity my vineyard needed, yet suspicion lingered. "Why would you offer this now? You could have approached me any time." He met my gaze. "Pride, shame, fear that you'd slam the door in my face." I moved to the window overlooking the vineyard that represented everything I'd fought for. "I need time to think about this," I said finally. "I understand." He rose to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, seeing your name on that wine label at the gala, watching everyone discover your talent, it was the proudest moment of my life." After he left, I walked through the vineyard alone, thinking about his offer. The sun was setting when Mia found me. "So, what did the infamous X want?" I told her about Robert's proposal. "Are you considering it?" she asked cautiously. "I'd be a fool not to," I admitted. "It's everything we need to secure Arroyo Ridge's future." But it's Robert," I said. "The man who told me I couldn't do this, then left me when I tried." "People change," Mia said. "Sometimes they even realize their mistakes." I plucked a perfect grape from a nearby vine. "You know what makes great wine, Mia? Balance. Too much of anything, even something good, ruins it." The next day, I invited Robert back to the vineyard. He arrived promptly, face carefully neutral. "I've thought about your offer," I said, leading him to the highest point of the property, where the valley spread out below us. "I'm willing to partner with Bennett Family Vineyards, with conditions." "Name them." "Arroyo Ridge remains completely independent. We create a new joint label for our collaboration, but my vineyard stays mine." "Agreed," he said without hesitation. And I want it in writing that this is strictly business. No romantic entanglements, no second chances." He nodded. "Crystal clear." "Then we have a deal." I extended my hand. As we shook, the setting sun caught the ripening grapes around us, turning them to jewels. In that moment, I realized that the real victory wasn't winning the award or securing this partnership. It was standing on my own land, successful on my own terms. "One more thing," I said. "The joint label, I want to call it Second Harvest." He smiled, understanding the dual meaning. A second harvest from the same land and a second chance at a different kind of partnership. "Perfect," he said. "To new beginnings." 2 months later, at the release party for Second Harvest's first vintage, Audrey made an appearance. She approached me during a quiet moment, elegant as ever, but somehow diminished. "Congratulations on your success," she said with unexpected sincerity. "I underestimated you." "Most people do," I replied, offering her a glass of our new wine. "That's their mistake." She accepted the glass, studying the label with its intertwined grapevines. "You know, when I said you weren't invited to toast, I never imagined you'd end up owning the party." I smiled. "That's the thing about great wine, Audrey. What matters isn't who pours it, it's who creates it."